Three, two, one, here we go. Welcome to Last Breath Huntcast. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. This is episode 178, part 3 of a Kill More Coyotes series. This interview today, or this podcast today, is with Joe Wirth. He is the owner and operator of Close Encounter Outfitting. And man, this guy is as crazy about coyotes as I am about whitetails. And there's not very many people that really know more about coyotes, their vocalizations, their lifestyle than Joe does. And sitting down and talking with him, you can tell that coyotes is what this guy lives for. So today, you're in for a treat because I have been the glutton of this series. I've learned a lot from all the guests, and no exception with Joe. But before we get into it here, let's pay the bills really quick. First, we want to thank Badlands Gear for being the title sponsorship of this podcast. I know you guys are waiting for the code. I am trying to get them to get that figured out as soon as possible. So bear with me. I am working, and I have a phone call today, this podcast launches on Monday. I've got a phone call today to hopefully get those kinks worked out. When that discount code goes live, I'll put it in the Last Breath inner circle. Next is Tompkins Taxidermy. We love Wayne and Michael. Those guys do a fantastic job. They've had some really cool mounts come through, or I should say that they've finished in their shop. And if you haven't checked out their website, or more importantly, their social media pages, you should, because they just got done finishing a grizzly bear, a double buck mount that the hunter had found locked up, so they put them back, locked together. They had a black bear half mount. They've got a rattlesnake full body mount that they just got done. So they've got a lot of really cool stuff that they're getting done. And Wayne and Michael have just really turned it on. Looks awesome. Next is Moultrie Mobile. Again, I know that Moultries are kind of fading right now. Some guys are turning off their accounts, and that's one of the beauties of Moultrie Mobile. You know, they're one of the few camera companies where you can turn the app off and then turn it back on and not lose your photos. They also have some pretty economical options for just standby or lower picture counts for the off season. But I've been running mine, keeping track of coyotes and kind of trying to figure out when deer are starting to drop, which they are. Had a couple half racks on camera already. And then last is Dark Night Outdoors. Jamie and Bill, just down to earth, awesome guys. They've helped me out a lot with my thermal equipment. They've helped a lot of guys in the area and a lot of guys around the country. One of the other things that they do is they have a lot of proprietary products. They have a lot of proprietary eye cups and throw levers, battery packs, and their tripod. And gosh, I upgraded to one of their carbon fiber tripods. What a difference it made. Again, the Bog Pod is fantastic. It works really well, especially for a lot of guys that are going to be hunting in a situation where they're not going to be standing. But going to a tripod that's lighter weight, more compact, quieter, and more stable allows me just to be that more effective when I'm hunting coyotes specifically and I'm standing. You know, it's one thing to take a 300-yard shot if you're seated and rested, or even if you're laying down, but to stand and have a supported standing shot at 300 yards, you really have to have something solid. But anywho, can't thank our partners enough. We're looking forward to this kind of new season. I know we're into February now, and with that comes a lot of new things in the industry. You know, media companies are changing their partners. New products are finally getting into circulation. The ATA show's done. The SHOT Show's done. And it just is, we're knocking on spring's door, and it kind of seems like it's ready for that new wave. So appreciate all you guys listening in. If you haven't yet, I want you to check out some of my friends in the industry. Mike Lemansky is just a damn good man, and he's got Harvest Time Outdoors. He has served our country for a long time, and with that has come some complications, and he's having some issues with his eyes. Obviously, that affects so many other things than just your career, but I hope he gets it figured out. I hope that he can remedy that solution and live his life happily and long. Other one is Whitetail Legacy. Cody was asking me if he should start an OnlyFans account. You know, he looks pretty good with his shirt off, and I was like, hey, no, I think you should do something a little more, practical, and he started a pattern account. So I'm just kidding, but he did, and it's kind of neat what he's doing with that. If you guys want to check it out, Whitetail Legacy Podcast, Cody's actually going to give you the insight on all of his bucks that he's hunting and everything else. And I'm a supporter of him, and I think he's doing a great job. So those are just a couple of guys in the industry that keep killing it. They keep reaching out, and they're good guys. Jake Hofer seems to be another guy who's just solid, and Byron Horton is doing some good things over at Whitetail Experience. So if you haven't checked those guys out, do that. There's no strings attached to those. They're just heartfelt recommendations. But getting into this, I'm telling you, Joe just kills a ton of coyotes, and having some friends that are hunting guides like Shane and Robert, um, it's one thing to be a good hunter and to be able to put yourself in a position and to kill things, but to be able to do that for somebody else, somebody that you don't know, or maybe somebody that has a much lesser skill set than you, that's another level of outdoorsman, of woodsman, of hunter. And talking with Joe, it's really interesting. Just you again, when you dive into this podcast, you can tell that this guy really knows what he's doing. And I'll be honest with you, his hunts are pretty economical. If you're a guy that's thinking about getting into the thermal world, you want to know what nightlife hunting is all about. Again, he's got his rates that are pretty economical. You're going to have an action-filled night. You're going to be able to use top-of-the-line gear and see if it's something you want to invest in. And so there's not that many people that do this. Joe is out of Lawrenceville, Illinois. He's kind of right on the Illinois-Indiana border. And just listen to the podcast, and if you have questions or you want to try out night hunting, I'm telling you, I'd give him a buzz. I know he's got a couple dates available, but the season is coming to a close soon. But we're going to jump on the podcast with him. I hope you guys appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. All right, I've got Joe Wirth sitting next to me, probably one of the best coyote killers in Illinois, and he is the owner and operator of Close Encounters Outfitting. And so, Joe, introduce yourself to the podcast.
Thanks. Appreciate you having me. Joe Wirth, Close Encounter Outfitters, specializing in predator hunts, but also do deer, turkey, waterfowl as of this year.
Yeah, and we went and had some Mexican. We had a very spicy margarita.
That margarita was stout.
It was, but you know what is perfect before this podcast? Kind of loosens us up a little bit. Before we get into it, how can they find you? So, we're going to talk all about how Joe puts his clients on tons of coyotes. I mean, hundreds of coyotes a year. But where can they find you if they want to see what you're doing or maybe book a hunt with you?
Sure. Website's closeencounterguidedpredatorhunts.com. I know it's long. Social media is Close Encounter Outfitters on Facebook and Instagram. And then TikTok is Close Enc Pred Hunts.
Yeah, TikTok is banging for you guys. I mean, you got a rockin' TikTok account.
Yeah, I need to be more active. I should definitely put more on there.
No, so
I've been slacking.
So Joe is, like I say, he's very humble right now, and he's kind of shy, but we're going to loosen him up. We need to get him another one of those giant margaritas. You'll be fine. But we're going to get into this. If you've listened to the first several episodes of this series, I'm going to ask similar questions to the first couple episodes, but then also hit him with some different ones. We're going to find out the similarities and the differences between Joe and some of our other guests. So to open up, Joe, let's talk about your firearm setups. And this is a little different for the listeners because Joe actually has prefabricated, pre-built setups that your clients run, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So I've got, I have two setups that I provide. Both are AR-10s. One is an Alex Pro and one is a custom build, but both in 243s.
Nice. And so that's going to be how long of a barrel?
22 on both of them.
So pretty long barrels.
Yeah.
And then you're shooting lighter grain bullets, right? You want some a little faster?
Yeah. So I prefer that 70 to 80 grain range going 33 to 3,500 feet per second.
So pretty fast.
Yeah.
Pretty fast.
Yeah.
So, and then your optics. I know this changes every year. What are you using this year?
Yeah. So I use pulsars every year.
Every year?
But the model that I use will change on occasion. So this year I'm running two Thermions.
All right.
XP50s.
And you've had tons of success with them?
I love pulsars. As far as what you get value-wise, it's really hard to beat them. I've got to have optics that turn on every single time and work every time. I can't have problems when people show up to have, turn the optic on and it's not working, or it's,
Sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've got to have them work every time. I've never had to send one in. I've never had problems with them. So I've been really lucky as far as that goes. But I run the two thermions on my guns, and I've got a Helion scanner too.
Nice. And so I've never owned a Pulsar, but I've heard too that Pulsars have a very like not even comparable app to some of the other manufacturers that are out there. Very, very nice.
Stream Vision, and it's one of those things where, like, a lot of times we'll do the stand and I'll have the video uploaded to my phone before we even walk back to the truck. Like, just turn on the Wi-Fi, connect, and just download the video. So
Yeah, because you can literally record, change it, all your settings from the phone, so your user doesn't even have to play with it. Like, hey, no, hold on, I got this.
yeah, and it it's got the auto recording option. It's recoil recording. It has more features than I need.
So, okay, we'll get into the weeds a little bit here. I had some guests on that really were hesitant to turn on the audio recording because they're like, we want to put our videos, but we don't want people knowing our sounds.
Yeah.
Do you run audio or not?
I do, yeah, but I can also, like, edit the video to edit out language if I need to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, language is nothing. They're all worried about, like, oh, I don't want to hear my secret sound words,
no,
you know?
No, I'll tell people what we're playing. I'm more worried about the language.
Yeah. Yeah. Shit, I missed.
Right.
Oh,
Again.
my first thermal scope, I had a AGM Rattler. It is a nice scope. It worked really well. It's very simple to use, but didn't have audio. And me being a video and audio guy, like, I was like, man, it's missing. Like, I couldn't take it. So now my new thermal, the part that I'm running, has audio, and it's like so nice.
Yeah.
And like, it just because I'm such a video guy, like, you can't have a video without audio.
Running a camera for day hunts the last 2 years, like, audio, good quality audio makes
The video.
It makes a video.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you mute it, it's just not the same.
No.
You want to hear. You want to hear the call. You want to hear the coyote respond. You want to hear the guy's interactions when they're getting ready to shoot. You want to hear that bullet impact.
Oh, for sure.
So, like, I love audio.
And so now we'll get into something else. Like, a lot of our listeners are Illinois and Iowa based, just because of where we're at. And in Illinois, we have the stupid, ridiculous law that you can't own a suppressor. So a lot of the guys are talking about, like, what are you running on the end? Are you, brakes are great for recoil mitigation, but your buddy next to you is going to take it in the face. Like, are you using linear comps? Or are you just using just a barrel thread cover?
Yeah, I've just got a thread saver. That's all. I don't run a compensator. I've had clients that brought their own setups that have run compensators, so I've been around them. They're nice. They're fine. It's just I've just never needed one.
Sure.
The setups I have with nothing on the end, I will not run a brake for the sake of
for people to the left and right.
Oh my gosh, it's deafening. I've had clients bring their setups and I'm behind them with no ear pro on, thinking, "Oh, I'm fine back here."
Oh,
But,
no.
man, some of those brakes are just. I mean, it's ear bleeding. Mm-hmm. But no, I'll never run a brake. From a practical standpoint, shooting from tripods and the ball heads that we have are leveling bases. We don't need them. We're not.
No.
It's just we're not shooting on a bench. We're not shooting groups.
And you're not shooting a big boomer.
No,
That's the other thing.
We're not shooting a 0.3 something.
Yes,
It's,
right.
It's just not. There's not a lot of recoil.
Especially in the AR-10 platform, like the 243, you got that big beefy BCG, you got the great big spring and the buffer tube. Like, I will ask you this, so I'm kind of a gun geek. Do you have any special springs in your buffer tube?
JP.
Okay.
Silent capture. Yeah.
Dude, it makes a huge difference.
On my custom build. So the Alex Pro that I have, this is funny to me. Like, I love my custom gun. It's built the way I want it.
Sure.
And my clients, oddly enough, shoot better with the stock Alex Pro. And it's not a testament to accuracy. It's just for some reason they are more consistent with that firearm. And I don't know why.
What trigger do you put in your guns? Are they same or different?
Well, for my personal gun, I run a Geisley SSAE 2-stage.
Very nice.
And I
two-stage.
Yeah, I run a 2-stage because of how. So we have a system for shooting. Like, if I hunt with somebody and I'm shooting backup, I prefer a 2-stage.
Sure.
We don't count down. We communicate well, and then I time my shot. So say my buddy Justin's shooting primary and I'm shooting backup, right? So he's communicated to me when he's going to shoot. And I know once he's given me that cue, I have about a second and a half before he's pulling the trigger. So I've already pulled through my first stage. I just had a conversation with a group of guys from Michigan. I believe they're from Michigan. They were wanting to tune up on contests. They had a contest coming up. So I showed them how to do this. They actually won the contest. And they said the shooting system was what made the difference for them, which was satisfying to me,
Right.
But so anyway, he's communicated to me. I know I've got about a second and a half. I've already pulled through my first stage. And as soon as I hear his shot break over, I follow through. And it takes some practice. But almost every single that comes in that when we hunt together gets 2 bullets. And every double that comes in, if we can get them stationary, we
Dump
kill,
'em.
we kill just about every double that comes in.
So that's interesting. So you're saying that as a backup, even if you have a single, you're always going to back him up.
100%. And we don't count down. Now there are some guys who are really efficient at counting down.
Oh, for sure. You've seen them
Yeah.
where it's like, sounds like one shot.
So for us personally, and this is just a preference, we're not great at it because the person who is counting down, your head's moving.
Oh,
If you're talking, your head is moving. You're not as stationary as you need to be. We've all seen those videos. 3, 2, before they get to 1, or whether they're supposed to shoot on 1 or 0 or whatever, they're like 1.5, and everybody starts shooting.
Yep.
So
Yeah, yeah.
but no, our shots are timed well enough. A lot of times you can't tell the difference.
Damn. All right.
But
So,
it takes practice and knowing your teammate.
sure. And so you have that Geisley 2-stage for that reason.
Yeah. So on my secondary gun, on the Alex Pro, it is a Timney competition,
Nice.
single stage.
Yep. I have a Hyperfire in mine, single stage, and for me on the autoloading platform, that's why I went to it. All my bolt guns are 2-stage. I want to have that first stage. I want to be able to feel that secondary wall.
Yeah.
Have it break like a carrot. But it makes sense why you have a 2-stage because of the way that you
It's
hunt.
for our system. If I was hunting by myself, just solo, cool, single stage, no big deal.
Sure.
But for us hunting in a team aspect, or just if you're two people hunting together, then you're just wanting to up your numbers, your efficiency, your
Success rates, yeah.
statistically, 2 well-timed bullets is better than 1.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
to me, like, the statistical advantage of it just makes sense. So
Interesting.
for us, it works.
I've never even thought about like shooting at the same coyote at the same time.
Yeah.
Usually it's like, all right, you're up, I'll back you up. But you have a rule of no runners.
Right. Yeah.
I'm
pretty strict about that.
Okay, so let's get into your tripod setup. What are you running for stabilization?
Yeah. So on top, I've got RS leveling bases.
Okay, and then your tripods, are you running like carbon fibers? Are you doing
Yeah,
pods? Are you doing?
I've got one Faisal Craytech, which is carbon fiber, and then I've got a Slick 700 Pro.
Nice.
So and that is like, so either one is going to be fine. I can shoot off either one and be 95% as accurate, So I get a lot of clients that want to see, they're thinking about getting into the night game. You get states like, you get states that just added night seasons or expanded night seasons. So guys are jumping in and buying gear. Night hunters are gear happy.
Oh, yeah.
We lean on our equipment.
Oh yeah.
So like guys are always wanting to see, okay, what leveling base, what tripod, what this, what that, what knick-knack, and it's great. It's fun.
But it's expensive.
It is expensive.
It's not cheap being cool.
No, it's you gotta love it. So so if you're gonna pay the money for it, but like I say, we're gear happy. We want to see. So I keep a variety of things. Instead of just identical setups on everything. It's like, okay, for this much money, you can have this. For this much money, you can have that. Because like a lot of my clientele is guys wanting to see equipment firsthand before they go and spend the money. Because you think about optics, it's hard to go and drop $5,000
Without even looking
on
through
an
it.
optic you've never looked through, you've never turned on, you've never seen the features. So like I get a lot of guys that'll book a hunt with me. They'll hunt for 2 nights, use my gear, use my optics, get familiar with it, and be like, oh, okay, I know exactly what I want. I know what I'm getting for my money. Because I can say, okay, well, this setup, you can have, a custom rifle like this, a 640 core thermal. You can have this carbon fiber tripod with, RRS on top. You can have great stuff for this. You can spend a little less and have this other setup. It's not as great, but I mean,
Gets the job done.
yeah. And at the end of the day, if you can't kill with that little lesser setup, it's not the setup.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's, people should invest in their skill set before their equipment.
100%, dude. Yep.
That's any hunting.
And that is any hunting. So so you do then all direct mounts where you've got like an Arca Swiss,
That's right.
a plate. Okay, got it. Plugs right in. We'll get into like the listener favorite here, and that is calls. Everybody wants to know what calls the pros are using. And like we talked about this a little bit earlier, but like hand calls versus electric calls, are you one or the other? Do you mix the two? And again, I know you do a lot of both like fall, winter, and summer hunting.
Yeah.
This is not just like, hey, this is traditional coyotes. You said, no, Joe Wirth kills coyotes from freaking January to January.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, so like everybody should think of their setup as a toolbox, right? And every tool in that toolbox has its place and its use. I'm not going to use a hammer to push in a screw.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, summertime, I am very diaphragm heavy, because of the close proximity and trying to direct the coyotes within shotgun or bow range, which is going to be different than our night season, which means wide open fields, which means coyotes circling 400 yards downwind at the end of January because they've been called at by everybody in the county.
Right.
So the ability to lean on that e-collar and put that e-collar upwind based on where the coyotes are at and what the wind direction is doing, and then move ourselves downwind to the call. Those are different uses for those tools. So, it takes some trial and error. So like at night, if the coyotes are straight north of me and I have a west wind, I'm not going to use a diaphragm. Well, because they're going to go straight east of me and be 300-400 yards downwind. Yeah, you can get a shot at them, but it's not a high quality shot.
Correct.
For me, I need to at night in a wide open terrain put them within 200 yards. So a lot of times there's, you have that scenario where you howl on the call, they howl back. Well, crap, the wind's this, we're here, they're there. The terrain's going to do this. There's a low spot. They're going to run this draw. I need to move the call over there. We need to move ourselves over there real fast.
And you do that. You're very mobile at night.
Oh, super mobile. That group of guys from Michigan, I think we did something of that essence on nearly every stand where we had a vocal response. It was just like, God, they're not in the ideal spot. So we have to manipulate what we're presenting to them to make them go where we're going to go. And when you've done it enough, you can say, okay, they're there. I've moved the call here. The wind's doing this. The terrain looks like this. We've moved ourselves into this position. We're going to kill those things right there at like 125 yards. So it's like this cool little chess match where you're making them go where you want them to go.
And you can't do that without the electronic call, like you said.
No.
Without being able to force them to think the sounds are coming from somewhere.
Now, at the same time, so like I get them reacting to that call. So they're coming downwind of the call, but directly in front of us. But I've still got that diaphragm in my mouth. Now that tool has a different use. Now I'm using that tool to stop them because we don't shoot. Statistically, you are at a disadvantage if you shoot at a trotting, running, walking, any kind of moving animal. Get it to stop. So I'll whimper, I'll howl, do whatever, get them to stop. If there's a quad that rolls in, boom, boom, clients shoot, coyotes scatter, right? So first thing I'm going to do is howl on that diaphragm again. And then on the e-call, and this is part of using it as a tool, like if I've got them coming into a fight sound, right? They're coming in perfect. They're right in front of us. Shots go off so like when those coyotes are committed, I cut the call off. They're running in. If they hang up, I'll turn it on just long enough to get them moving again. I want them searching. Like I don't want them to pinpoint things.
Sure.
They're really good at it. So, more often than not, they probably know where the sound's coming from, so I want them trying to get downwind of the call. While they're coming into that sound of silence, I've already scrolled to a howl, right? So I've still, are you familiar with, so I run a Foxborough X24, right?
Okay.
So on that call, you got a mute button, which is basically like play and pause.
Yep.
Right. So I'm using that play and pause feature, but I can scroll to a different sound. I haven't hit play on it yet, but it's there when I need it.
Right.
So when those shots crack off, boom, hit play.
So you don't run Foxbang?
No, I just had this conversation earlier today or yesterday, really recently. I don't use Foxbang, and it's a great feature. It does what it's supposed to do. But I've had a few incidents where I didn't mean to use fox bang, and it kind of screwed some stuff up for us.
And
And
so,
it's not a testament to fox bang being ineffective. It just means I'm real clumsy.
dude, so the podcast before this, identical. The guy's like, I really like fox bang, but depending on how sensitive it is, he's like, we've bumped it on the truck, like, or walking out, or even like maybe you set it down too hard on snow. He's like, so we always only they turn their call on after it's placed.
Yeah.
Like, because just like you said, accidental fox bang discharge. I don't know what you want to call it.
I've got my at night. You got your thermal scanner hanging around your neck, and if you're hunting, your gun's in front of you. You're bumping your chest on your stock.
Oh yeah.
You know how clumsy it is at night. You can't see anything.
Yep.
And then, so like the incident that happened to me was I was day hunting. This was years ago. I was day hunting and it was winter, and I had a coyote coming into prey distress. And this thing had nearly stuck its nose in the call. And I went to shoulder the gun, and I had the lanyard around my neck. So I bumped the remote. Foxbane goes off in this call.
That's sensitive?
This call screams, it howls directly in this thing's face, like 5 yards from it. That coyote couldn't get out of there fast enough. I was like, okay, well, I'm not using that anymore.
Holy shit.
But I mean, and it's so like the fox bang is great if you're not clumsy like me. It's a great feature.
Sure.
But if you're clumsy like me, you just plan a little bit sooner to change sounds when you want. So like after that initial shot, we just had this discussion with Justin, my buddy Justin Repke with TRO. We were talking about, do you go to a fight sound or do you go to a howl for your fox bang? I'm like, well, if I used it, I would go to a howl. The fight sounds are lower pitch starting off a lot of times, so it takes 4 or 5 seconds to get into higher, more audible sounds for the coyotes that are running away. So like a higher pitched howl will get those running coyotes a lot of times to raise their head. Well, when you've got running coyotes, you've got two postures. You've got head down, ears back, long stretched out strides. Those
Getting out of there.
Yeah, that coyote is leaving. Or you got that coyote that's like, I don't know what happened, and he lopes.
Yep.
Right. So if that loping one, he hears that howl. Well, now he's curious. Well, now he's kind of
Slowing down.
and then he stops.
He's going to stop and check.
Right. That running coyote, all I'm trying to do is change his body language. So when he's running and he hears that howl, he might lift his head. Well, now he's not in those long, drawn-out strides because his head's not down. So his cadence changes, and the odds of getting him to stop are better now. Statistically, I would rather my clients shoot at a standing coyote at 300 than running at any distance. I've seen enough running coyotes get shot at and missed. We talked about it earlier. We all see the glory videos on Facebook of runners getting shot. And there are some guys that are excellent at shooting runners. I've killed a lot of runners. But I've found over the years, even with myself being decent at shooting running coyotes, it is statistically more likely that I'm going to hit that thing standing at 325 than running at 125, 150 yards.
Right.
It is, and it's really, really hard watching that opportunity running away from you. So
When you just be like, man, if you just awaited, you
Yeah.
could have got that coyote to lock up.
Yeah.
Huh. So the whole concept of running a howl afterwards is really just the loudness of the call.
Yeah.
The ability to make them stop sooner rather than pup distress.
Yeah.
So something interesting that my friends out west started doing is like they usually run 3-man teams when they get the chance. And they'll have 2 guys on gun, 1 guy's committed to calling in on the scanner. The end. And like sometimes when they have the opportunity, he'll grab his mouth call and he'll start whimpering to stop the coyote.
Yeah.
So like he's already doing like the pup distress before they even shoot. And then he'll carry that on. Once they kill it, then he'll get loud with it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and then they usually do run fox bang, so fox bang takes over. Kind of something interesting that they do that's not common that I thought, okay, so you're already giving that distress call before the shot even goes off to help mask the shot, and then the fox bang takes over. So like now you have a noise chain,
Yeah.
and they kill a ton of coyotes that way.
And that's like, and you talk about masking it. Like as soon as that shot rings out,
You're
boom, howl. Like it just gives enough, and maybe
Confusion.
Yeah, maybe it's just enough chaos that they don't realize. And we watched our numbers increase significantly, personally and guiding, when we stopped shooting at running animals.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, it's fun to shoot a runner. You
Well,
know,
it
when
feels
you
good when you hit one.
when you
You're
hit
like,
that one and watch it roll 3 or 4 times, and you're like, yeah, that was, it's
but
pretty
then
slick.
it sucks because, and now like,
Right.
especially running an autoloaders, like it's easy to wrap 2-3 shots off at one.
Oh,
Especially out
easy.
in an open field, you're like, ooh, I didn't lead him quite enough.
Yeah.
Like, let's see how this works, Think, oh, nope. Like, ooh,
Oh, I was high.
yeah,
Still behind.
shoot another one.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, like, you,
6 rounds are gone.
and that coyote's never coming in again.
Yeah. 6 rounds that cost you like $15 now.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely, dude. Interesting. So electronic calls and mouth calls. So like, do you talking about communicating with like your hunters when you have coyotes coming in? I mean, are you tight-lipped? Are you just like, hey, you got them, you're good? Like,
Oh no. Like I'm big on communication.
really?
Oh, like yeah, communication hunting, even with clients that are experienced. It's like it's so ingrained in me that I've had so many people that are not experienced. I still have a habit of like talking everybody through. Okay, this is what's going to happen. We're going to let it get to this range. If it hangs up, if it does this, if it starts to go left, if it starts to go right, we're going to do this. You know what I mean. So it's like because the whole time, most of my clients are only thinking about shooting it. I'm thinking about how close are they to the wind? Where are the others? Are we going to be able to get them in? Like the big picture.
Sure.
Not just shooting the closest coyote and getting a kill.
Right.
Like I'm thinking about maximum.
Damage.
Yes. Yeah. I'm thinking about them killing a triple because it's going to be great. So like, yeah, I get greedy sometimes.
No, it's a numbers game. So because I've been with guys where they're like, dude, we're like Navy SEALs out there. We don't talk at all. And they'll like carry mouse squeakers and like they see a coyote, they squeak.
They say that.
And then everybody else squeaks.
Yeah.
To confirm that they see it.
Nah.
The most they'll say is like left, left, or right, right.
And that system may work for them. And
The thing that's different though about that, I think, is they hunt together all the time.
yes.
Like just like you and
their
Justin
system.
that have your shooting system, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't expect two clients to go out there
Yeah.
and do that.
And they say just like the Navy SEAL, but I mean Navy SEALs emphasize communication.
Right.
They just have their system of communication.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So like I have found that I can talk in this voice right here when coyotes are coming in and the call's playing, and it does not make a bit of difference.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean that coyote's at 100 yards is dead.
Sure.
Yeah.
Should be.
Probably can't hear what I'm saying over the call. They're paying attention to that call. Okay, are you ready? Are you on it? Are you good? Is your safety off? Yeah, I'm going to stop it. Ready? Yes. Whimper on the diaphragm. Kill it. And then they shoot, and I just say, don't shoot again. And sometimes as the coyote runs away.
Don't shoot again.
So if it stops, you got the green light.
Oh, no. Okay. So e-calls again. Let's get into like your like preferable calls, because and you don't have to give them all away, but like you said, you're running a Fox Pro. Are you running any addition? Like MFKs are popular. It's been almost unanimous amongst the pros. They love those calls.
Yeah.
In 24-bit.
Oh, you can talk to my clients. They'll tell you, like, I run exclusively MFK sounds.
That's it.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And as far as like what sound, I mean, I'll tell you.
We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah,
I just was talking about, so if a guy's looking at calls, like it's a Fox Pro, the X24, you're using mostly MFKs.
Yeah.
So now we'll get into like the hunt strategy series, which again, the part of the country that you hunt, you're in like southwestern Illinois, and then, well, I wouldn't say south, more like central.
Yeah.
Or east, and western Indiana.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's kind of where your bailiwick is, but you've hunted all over too.
Oh, yeah. So I guide in this area, but I mean, I've hunted a little bit of everywhere. I've hunted swamps in Florida and pine thickets in Arkansas with Tori, and pastures in South Dakota, sand hills in Nebraska, mountains in Idaho. I mean, all over the place.
So with having that diversity, is it pretty similar, like your strategy with hunting?
So
or does it change?
So there's a lot of conversation about western coyotes and eastern coyotes are different, right? To me, they are the same thing. The only thing and it's not even a difference. The main consistency is that coyotes will consistently do the same thing based on their terrain. So, in other words, coyotes in South Dakota will do what coyotes in South Dakota do. They will come from a mile. I've watched them. They'll come from a mile across the wide open. It's going to be hard pressed to do that here in Illinois.
Sure.
In the daytime. We're talking about daytime.
Right.
You know, going to Arkansas and hunting pine thickets. Well, they're going to use the downwind edge of whatever cover they have consistently. And it's one of those things where your terrain, you have to learn how to hunt your terrain. And there are a lot of guys now, and we see it in these contests, where guys are putting up numbers in different states, in different terrains, and they're figuring out, oh, okay, well, in this terrain they do this. And one thing is that I've learned is you can take really effective eastern coyote hunting tactics and go west. And this is more specific to daytime. You can go west with those hunting tactics and be successful. It's a lot harder to come from the west to the east and be successful because our terrain is different.
Very.
Coyotes in the west are more, depending on the terrain, now it varies, but you look at sand hills,
Sage flats.
South Dakota pasture, they're more willing to come into the open.
Because it all is open.
That's exactly right. That's the terrain that they're used to. Here in the eastern part of the U.S., we have timber, we have
thickets, draws.
Yeah, it's a different kind of thing. So they can get downwind of us and stay inside the cover. So that's where, specifically for day hunting, our terrain, your setup is king. It is king. And when you really learn how consistent they are with the terrain they have to work with, you can stand back and look at the terrain and the wind and your call placement and where you're going to be and what the edges look like and what their cover looks like and what they're comfortable with. And you'd be like, I'm going to kill them in that 5-yard spot right there. I know exactly where we're going to kill those things. And it's it is that chess match. And that's what's fun about it.
Yeah, because you're going in already to a farm release of a woodlot, whatever, and you've hunted these places enough, and the key thing is you've also seen it in the day.
Yeah.
And you can be like, yeah, right there.
Yeah.
So a question for you then is, do you have farms or places that you only hunt on certain winds, or is it doesn't matter to you then, that you kind of have them figured out? I mean, some places have there's no way I can hunt it on this wind.
Yeah, I mean, there are some places like that. So, okay, so if I'm on a road and the property is on the south side of the road and the wind is out of the north, and I consistently have scouted enough to know the coyotes are in this section of woods over here, can I go a little further east and get in and go south and get parallel to them? Now I've got a crosswind. So I don't let the
bad wind,
classic quote unquote bad wind stop me. I just change how I set up and change how I enter a property. Now, sometimes those coyotes aren't exactly where I think they are, and I get in there and I'm like, oh, well, they're running away. so I mean, it's not foolproof. None of this is foolproof.
Right, they're wild animals. They move all around, right?
Yeah, but you do the best you can with the conditions and information that you have.
And I think being how mobile you are with your setups makes a big deal.
Yeah.
Because, and we're going to get in that. So, okay, so your favorite time to hunt, period, the end. What is it?
What?
Time of day.
Oh. Are we talking just day?
24 hours in a day. Favorite time. Do you have a favorite time?
Personal favorite is going to be that first stand right after sunrise. Not legal shooting light, legal sunrise, because camera light's good.
Yep.
So some of my buddies will get a kick out of that. But yeah, I like that. So they're still transitioning out of that night into day, getting to cover. They're still moving. If I'm day hunting, man, I love that.
Right.
I love that.
Right.
Night hunting, so night hunting's a little weird for me because I've had great stands every hour of darkness. So for me, we don't generally start until 10 o'clock.
Really?
And that's to avoid traffic and people, because there's nothing worse than having coyotes running at you, and we see it. We've had it happen a dozen times this year already, where coyotes are running at you, and it's like, God, this car, and then the next car, and then there was we did just a couple weeks ago where we had, I think it was a pair kind of on top of a hill, and it was just like, man, if these cars would just stop coming, give me 3 minutes
To let 'em
we'll-
come down the
and
hill.
we'll kill these coyotes. But it was just like these cars were spaced like a minute and a half, 2 minutes apart, and I'm like, God, they're constantly headlights. So
Sure.
yeah, so I mean,
That's interesting. I'm going to bring that up later in the
Sure.
later in this because it's again, it seems to be a like it kills a hunt.
it's something we have to deal with.
Something that you can't save either. Very rarely, right?
No, it's
so
hard.
your favorite time to hunt at night is really whenever,
Yeah,
barring
when the weather's good. So
right. So getting into your stands now, this is both daytime and nighttime, and if it changes, feel free to differentiate the 2. How long is a typical stand for you? You're not competition hunting. It's not like you got to cover 30 properties. You're going out to hunt, and what do you think the duration?
So Illinois, the Illinois night season is November to March.
Yep.
So November, December, my stands, if I'm pleasure hunting, so if I'm guiding, I may give it a little longer, like 20 minutes.
20. That's longer.
Yeah, that's longer.
Okay.
I'm not.
Very impatient.
So like if you look at the statistics and if we all think about this and we look back at our stands,
You kill most of your cows in
of
the
our-
first 10 minutes.
most of our kills are 10, most of our kills are probably under 6 to 8 minutes.
Sure.
Depending on how aggressive we are changing sounds. You howl, they howl. Well, now what? Gotta play some prey distress? Yeah, they didn't respond to that. Well, now we're like 5 minutes in. Okay, well, I'll run a group howl. Wait a minute. Well, now we're like 7 minutes in. So you know what I mean? So
Sure.
like, but instead of that, can I go to a fight sound? Yeah, fight sound. Okay, cool. Well, now the whole group just ran over you and you're like 3 minutes. Cool. Great. Let's go.
Right.
But, that's, it just depends on what the coyotes want to hear.
So at nighttime, you're saying 20 minutes average
Yeah.
stand.
So 20 minutes, November, December for us. And I have to say November, December because I'm guiding in Illinois,
Yep.
So like early in the season, they're going to respond a little better. They haven't been called to as much, if at all. They're going to show up a little quicker. They're going to be a little less apprehensive. So yeah, 20 minutes gives me time to run a little bit of prey distress, throw some howls, some milder fight sounds, getting into more aggressive fight sounds. More often than not, we've killed them on the prey distress or the howls, like early season. Now, the last few weeks I had one hunt. It overlapped from we did Indiana and Illinois, and coyotes were showing up at like 25, 26 minutes. So getting January to February, we'll run stands 30 minutes.
Sure. Stretch it out a little bit.
And we're starting to see those coyotes responding. But I mean, and the thing is, like, yeah, they're a little slower to come in. They're circling further out. We have to change our position. Like, we have to think a little bit more because the coyotes are a little bit more educated.
Sure. So daytime, is that about the same? Or are you staying longer for day or not?
Daytime's like, the thing about daytime is like, it's a totally different thing. Like for me in this terrain, day hunting and night hunting are as different as turkey hunting and deer hunting. They're completely different games. I can never get away in the daytime with the things I get away with at night.
Right, like being able to move your setup.
Yeah, your mobility, your exposure, where you park the truck, how far you have to walk. I mean, we'll pull the truck in off of the road into a field, like on the edge.
Yep.
Step 3 feet away from the truck, as long as we're legal,
And call.
Yeah, you're not going to do that in the daytime.
Right.
It is literally never going to work.
Nope.
You might get a coyote to step out and look at 500 yards. Cool if you can make that shot. I'm not that good of a shot.
No, and then
So I won't waste the bullet. So like in the daytime, so those hunts I've located the night before. I know where the group is. If they haven't moved, I mean, there are times where I've gotten within. I mean, I get uncomfortably close. Like I'll get so close, we're pretty sure we probably bumped them. Like I've snuck up on coyotes and like had them just doing their thing 10 yards in front of me because like I walked in and I caught one moving and stopped and just had a whole group walk out in front of me 10 yards from me and have no clue I was even right there. So like I get super close. So
yeah, that's close.
so daytimes are really, really short, like really short. And like they're like they're kind of like a real world version of whack-a-mole because it's like if you howl and they respond and they are where I think they are, you better have your gun shouldered because like they're going to run over you because you're in their space.
Right.
You know, you're eliciting that territorial response.
That's what I was just going to say. Like, so I want to talk about that right now. I've had some people on that are very big believers that, like, they've called coyotes in and, like, they've got, let's say a pair of coyotes, and they've come in from a long ways, and all of a sudden, boom, they stop. And it's like, there's no way they can wind us. There's no way they can see us. They believe that there's these territorial lines where, like, maybe those are two younger coyotes, and, like, we know if we cross this, we could get our ass kicked.
Yeah.
And you've seen that?
So this time of year is a great example of that.
Yes.
And hopefully we don't see that later. Hopefully they just come barreling in.
I'm just going to watch you Chris Kyle one, man.
So like using this time of year as an example. So you've got the dynamic of your breeding pairs.
Mm-hmm.
Breeding pairs have established their territory. They've probably pushed all of the other submissive coyotes out, right? A lot of those submissive coyotes are still litter mates that were born this year, right? So if you've got, so here in my area, everything's gridded. So we have blocks. There's square blocks.
Yep.
So if we
640s.
yeah. So if we say it's a mile by a mile. So if breeding pair has now established block A and kicked all the coyotes onto block B, submissive ones are gone. They're over there. So if I set up between A and B, so there's a road that runs between them, right? If you can envision it. So if I set up there and I howl from right in the middle, well, that breeding pair is probably going to come toward me. And that submissive pair, if they just had their butt kicked recently, and one of two things will happen, I think. They've either established that new block as their territory, and they will come to check out the new house because you're introducing a new coyote, right?
Right.
Or they've just had their butt kicked recently enough that they haven't established a new territory, and they will turn around and you will watch 3 or 4 coyotes run away from you as fast as they can. And we've all seen it this time of year. It is going to
It's
happen.
demoralizing, too, because you're like, God, I didn't do anything wrong unless you realize what just happened.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that social dynamic that they have.
The pecking order.
Yeah, 100% pecking order.
Yep.
Yeah, and Tori Cook from MFK, he's got a great series on for those interested in it. And I'm a big advocate of knowing the animal you're hunting, like understanding their biology, their social structure, their habits, like
The phenology, the life cycle. Yes.
like I can go down rabbit holes in that stuff. I love it. But Tori has.
I would have never guessed.
Right, I know, right. But Tori has some great videos on life cycle and understanding how that life cycle of a coyote can change as the year goes and their social dynamic changes because of,
Which changes the way you should call and approach coyote hunting.
yeah, it's very scenario based. So like in the summertime, I'll do my scouting and I'll find where every litter of pups is born that I have access to as well as I can. So long as they vocalize, I can figure out where they're at.
Right.
So I know socially, unless there's human intrusion, they're going to be within roughly a mile of where they were born. So when I pick up ground, I've picked up ground, in every direction around these coyotes. So come November, when our night season rolls around, I know that group is already there. So like one of the things for me is like clients think I have coyotes just everywhere. Well, it's just because I don't hunt.
No,
I don't hunt where they're not. I've scouted and I know where they're at. So, we have those nights where everywhere we go, we see coyotes, and it's just like, wow, you have coyotes everywhere. I'm like, not really.
Just
No.
where we go.
I've hunted a lot of places with way better coyote density. Scouting, I can't emphasize enough that scouting is the X factor. Like,
Right.
that is it. And that's with any hunting. That's any hunting.
Well, and I think, you hear those guys go like, man, I just don't know what I did wrong. Like, and you hit it on the head. Maybe you didn't. You just might not be hunting where coyotes are.
Yeah.
You might have you accessed it right. You did the calling sequence right. But if there's no coyotes there, it's kind of hard to call one in.
Yeah. And if you don't know, like, places that we hunted in November, and we're maybe just now gonna hunt again in February, I can go back and be like, okay, this was the scenario in November. I remember there were this many coyotes. It was a group this summer. This group was born here. So when I howl and those coyotes respond, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, there's a pair right there. 3/4 of a mile away, I can hear 3 or 4 more coyotes. I can kind of get a picture of what the dynamic is.
Sure.
Okay, we need to move closer to that pair and infringe on their territory to elicit that
Because
territorial
they're the
response.
dominant coyotes.
Yeah, they're the ones that are going to come and kick you out of their territory. So, I mean, we could go after the group. The group sounds great, but if you go over there and you can get close enough and prey distress is effective, cool. If you go over there and howl, it's 50-50 on what might happen,
Right.
you know? So statistically, I'm going to go after that pair.
Because they're more aggressive.
Yeah, so like understanding the understanding the biology and the life cycle and the social structure, it's like those things to me are like, man, they're just giving you the information. Like they're telling you what's happening.
Right. Right. And so, okay, this goes into like your opening call. And based on what you just said, I feel like that's going to change based on time of the year. So you walk into a stand, let's say, right now, we're talking February 1, a lot of coyote tournaments going on right now. It's peak breeding season, right? Like a lot of guys that I've interviewed have said they like to go with like an interrogation howl or a female invite howl. Something similar, or are you doing something different?
Okay, so a lot of times, and this isn't a super well known thing. A lot of times,
Big secret here.
oh no, not big, just small. Invitation, interrogation, a lot of those are just marketing labels. They don't really mean that,
Sure.
you know. So to me, like invitation, interrogation, whatever you want to call it, whatever is the label that has been put on it previously. So like any series of a single coyote with 4 or 5, 6 long drawn out howls, if I can get it louder, higher pitch, more drawn out, the better. Because like obviously you hunt turkeys. How much fun is it to hunt turkeys that aren't gobbling?
Oh, it sucks.
You can kill them.
If you can't see
But
them
it
or
sucks.
you can't hear them, it sucks.
Yeah,
Like
to
it's
me,
one or the other.
yeah. So like coyote hunting for me is about the action. It's about those angry coyotes running in, barking, howling, screaming in your face. Like if somebody told me that to continue coyote hunting, I could only run prey distress, I would quit. Like it's just not, you're not going to get that reaction out of a coyote coming to prey distress. It's just not the same, you know? So like starting off, the first sound I use on a stand depends on how close I think the coyotes are. If I think, are we talking about night hunting specifically?
You tell me. This is your rodeo. I'm just riding in it.
Summertime day hunting, I'm like 99% vocals. The only time I'll run a prey distress is if it's at the end of the stand and I'm throwing a Hail Mary. So I'm using typically they got pups.
Right.
So they got pups.
You need to feed them.
Yeah, their home range is small, their core area is small, they're super defensive. Your bred female that had the pups is real close. You've got a couple other adults that aren't real far away. Now, how people feel about shooting young coyotes, that's whatever to me. If you want to shoot them, shoot them. If you don't, don't. Sometimes I video and let them go, and I catch a lot of flack for it on those videos. And then other times I shoot them because it's a place where I do some actual like predator control for deer hunters and stuff.
Sure.
And I catch flack on those too. So
You can't win.
I don't care what
You're shooting a puppy or
Yeah.
you're an idiot. Every coyote needs to be shot.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Makes me no
Hey,
difference.
dude, you know what though? If you don't got haters, you're doing something wrong.
Right.
I'm serious. So bring on the hate.
Yeah. So like that territorial response, I'm running vocals. Like I want as many targets because I know once they get in range, I'm gonna have a real limited amount of time to shoot them because the corn's 6 feet tall and the beans are 4 feet tall.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So like I don't want to give them time to react. I want them to respond. Like I want them to immediately come straight to me, forget the wind, just straight line to me as aggressive as they can. So that's the summertime stuff. That's fun. That's a lot of fun. Sometimes the adults show up first. Sometimes the young ones show up first. Depending on my mood, who knows what I'll shoot? I don't know. But nighttime, if I get close, now you're talking about November for Illinois. They're all adult coyotes at that point. So like if I'm close, like real close to where they think, I may try to coax one with prey distress first. So like one thing I've learned is that once you call a group of coyotes with a fight sound, that property is not going to be the same. You know, once you've howled and used vocals and prayed, and fight sounds, and they've all come running in, and you shoot, and you maybe kill one or two, and some other ones run off. It's going to be a lot harder to call them back in next time you go there.
So you do think they're smart enough to retain that memory?
100%. Yeah, yeah. They're man. Our anyone who has dogs knows that, like, dogs can recognize when their owner pulls in the driveway by the sound of their car. They're not dumb. They're so, to me, any canine is the perfect example of conditioning. Everything they do is
Based on conditioning.
has been, it's Pavlov. Like, it is all conditioning for canines. And I talk about coyote hunting, these guys that go back and they call and use the same sounds and this and that. You ever played fetch with a dog?
Right.
Yeah. So you're in the middle of playing fetch and you fake the throw. The first time the dog runs all the way out there to where the ball should be, realizes it's not there and runs back. Second time you fake it, it runs halfway. Third time you fake it, it sits there and looks at you like you're an asshole.
Right.
They figure it out. They're not dumb. And coyotes will figure that stuff out too.
How long do you think they'll retain that for? You know what I mean? Not over a year, you wouldn't think. Or do you think you've got some smart
Man,
3, 4, 5-year-old dogs?
Yeah, I've got so, like, if you're going in and you're parking in the same place, you're walking in the same place, you set
Same
up in the place,
sequence, blah, blah, yeah.
yeah, no, it's not going to work. Like, you might catch a scraggler or a transient coyote that doesn't live there, that doesn't know any better. Yeah, on occasion it might work. If you are going in and you're changing your setup and you're changing how you walk in and you're changing where you walk in from, and you're not replicating the thing they've been conditioned to know is BS.
Much better chance.
Yeah, you got a much better chance. But yeah, man, I think there are some coyotes that have figured out, I'm not moving, I'm not responding to anything. I'll howl from right here where I'm safe in this block of timber where you can't see me with your $10,000 thermal. so we all know that one coyote.
Oh, yeah.
That big, deep, like,
Oh,
long,
yeah.
Yeah, you're not killing
Teeth
him.
are worn off.
Yeah. And we hear him every time. Every time we just pray he's going to come out one of these times.
Yeah.
And hope we don't miss him.
So that's something interesting. I did a podcast with, have you heard deerage.com?
I have not.
So deerage.com, Sarah's the owner. She's super, like, you want to talk about freaking out about life cycle stuff? You and her would be horse.
Is that right?
Oh, if you guys shared a room. So she has a wildlife biology lab, and she can do, it's called cementium aging. And so all species of mammals, I guess, have these deposits, and she's trying to theorize that it's due to stress. The highest level of stress in most wild animals is the breeding season.
Okay.
And so there's like these lines similar to growth rings in a tree. And so she can age coyotes, coons, deer, you name it. Obviously, most of her customers are wanting to age the deer, the trophy buck they shot, to make sure, oh, he's a big old buck. But, like, I'm going to probably send in some coyote teeth to her. I've killed some dogs, but, like, 2 years ago, my wife shot this coyote, and it was a scenario where we live out in the country, and, when we see a coyote in the backyard, it's like fire drill.
Right.
Right? So I woke up and I look out, and like 250 yards is this coyote sunning on the hill. And I'm like, babe, coyote. It's just laying there. And I'm like, you're up, So we got the tripod out. She smoked it. And this coyote, like, all of its canines, all four were super rounded. We actually tanned the hide and everything, which I skinned out, just so you know.
Yeah, pro level, right?
And, like, I wish I would have sent that coyote's teeth in. Like, if I shoot one that looks old, I'm just curious, right?
Yeah.
So the crazy thing, and this is a coyote hunting, not deer hunting, but she's like, I will get about 25% of my specimens that are over double digits for deer. She said that most people are completely inaccurate with understanding the life cycle of deer. The oldest deer she's ever aged is like 23 years old.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. And she says, so, not to get in the weeds, but she just talked about how, we have this misconception as a whole of whitetail hunters that deer peak at a certain time and, only have a certain amount of age to live. And she's like, I think we're going to find that out along many wild animals, that they have a lot more longevity than what we think. So it'd be really cool. Like you said, that old coyote that just kicks your ass every time. If you get them killed, like, all right, is this coyote 4 or is he 14?
Right.
Because dogs can live to be 20 years old.
Sure.
Like, how smart could a coyote be if it was 15 years
Could you
old?
imagine?
Oh my God.
You'd never kill
You
him.
never kill it.
Right.
No.
He's seen everything.
Everything.
And what blows my mind is like, and I understand coyotes move. You know, there are transient coyotes that will cover a large area, dozens of miles. But I mean, hunting, I say the same area. It's like a 60-mile stretch north and south that I'm in.
Sure.
And however far east and west. But consistently hunting the same areas for 5 years, but still shooting these coyotes every year that have teeth that are just worn to nothing. You know, it's satisfying.
Skin one out.
It's
I should make you skin out a coyote tonight. I should have brought my
Nope.
tail puller and like,
Nope.
I'm going to teach you something.
I have no need to skin out a coyote ever. It's
Okay.
not my thing. I shoot them.
I'm going to make you a shawl.
I'm not a taxidermist.
You're going to have a coat of coyote hides that you wear.
Bet. That's cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not skinning it though. So, but yeah, so like every year we kill those coyotes that we like are ancient. And I'm like, man, where was this thing last year? Why didn't we kill this last year? And it's, you know,
Do you think it's a coyote that's moved in?
it could be. Yeah, sure.
Or
Absolutely.
just finally you caught that coyote on a dumb day,
Could be.
on
Yeah.
a hungry day or whatever.
Yeah. And I think, you know, from day to day, their moods change like ours do.
100%.
The weather affects their mood like it does us. I mean, I think there are a lot of factors that go into it. And that's like, from a guiding perspective, you know, I mean, I know people won't get to see this, but I can show you. I mean, I have access to a pretty significant area.
Oh, I bet. It's kind of like when I came down here, he was explaining to me, it's kind of like,
Right?
wow.
Right.
It's kind of like the Lion King, like, and, you know, he's like, everything the light.
Right. Right. So it's like, yeah. So like, I mean, I'm sure there are transient coyotes that come and go, but it's like, there's no,
Right.
yeah. And it's one of those things I don't think we'll ever figure out,
Sure.
you know? So you can go to a property like, well, and it's part of that dynamic of, you know, a group was born, breeding pair, pushed other coyotes out. So like January, February, I'll start going to properties that didn't have coyotes all summer long.
And now they have them.
Didn't have coyotes in October, November, December. Now they're there. So it's like, and what's cool is now that they've moved into a different area, well, their social structure is different now.
Sure.
So now I can manipulate that. So it's like, it's almost like getting a fresh slate. So like people ask me a lot, like, how often will you hunt a property? I'm like, well, their social structure really changes to me in this terrain 4 times a year. So like, I try not to hunt any property or not even any property, any group of coyotes. Like if I keep tabs on them and I know they've moved, like I'll try not to hunt that group of coyotes more than 4 times a year.
Interesting.
And I feel like we can kill them every single time because their social structure is different. We can take advantage of it.
So you're taking advantage of their weakness of the change.
Yep.
Because that changes the complete dynamics of it.
Yeah.
Which changes their mood, their mentality, their callability.
And talking about pups earlier, it's this, and I'd seen this multiple times, but I didn't realize it until Tori explained it to me. So like in a litter of pups, you're going to have that one dominant pup that's super aggressive. He'll howl every time. He'll come running into howls like it has established itself as the pup. Like it's the
alpha.
dominant pup.
Yep.
And it'll come in, you know, people talk about how howls and vocals will scare young coyotes. That is nonsense. So like you howl, well, the whole group howls, but you can hear this one young coyote that's just over the top, enthusiastic, howling back, and it comes running right to you, and you shoot it, right? You can go back in a week, and now there's a new pup doing the exact same thing.
Took its place.
Because it's now the top of the pecking order, you know? So it's like, and you can, so I've got places where I do, you know, some predation work, guys that are real serious about their deer hunting. So their thing is, you know, I want to keep the ground and I want to keep them happy. Shoot whatever.
Shoot them
Like
all.
if you see a pup, kill every last one of them. Okay, deal. I'm not emotionally attached to that. It is what it is. It's part of the process. So like I've watched where I've chipped away at 4, 5, 6 coyotes in a row, week after week.
Just letting them transition into the
Yeah,
role.
yeah. Give them a little bit of time, figure out who's the little pup in charge, and next thing you know, the whole litter's gone. Now, it
Dang.
doesn't always work that way, but a lot of times it does.
No kid. Man, that's going to be interesting when I talk to you about one of these questions here.
Sure.
So, okay, so let's get into some scenarios. All right. I have, these are some listener scenario call-ins or questions. So this is a scenario for both. You've walked in. The first one is you've done some type of vocalization. And then the flip side is a lot of guys will go in and start with the distress. Same thing happens. So you go into your stand, you get set up. Let's say you run some vocals, and you hear coyotes, a group of them serenade 600 yards or less. What is your response? Just over encompassing. I know it's different every time, but I'm just saying as a generality, right? Like the wind's right. You go in. You have a group that's howled back to some of your vocals. Are you challenging? Are you distressing? Are you whimpering? What's going to be your next move?
From my perspective, the things I'm going to ask was, okay, was there a litter born here this summer? I'm going to assume if there's a big group, yes, right. 600 yards in this terrain, I'm going to, if I've vocalized and they've responded and they're in that range, wind is good, everything's good, I've got line of sight, I'm going to throw some. I'm probably not going to go prey distress at that distance here.
Sure.
Now, in other places, I would. Here, I'm not. Here, I'm probably going to go to a lighter, like whimper whine, like a
Food
not
fight.
not a fight sound, no growl, snarls, high pitched, anything. Just something. Well, with MFK, we refer to them as social interaction sounds. It's not a fight. It's just coyotes being coyotes. Just introducing coyotes. See if they respond. If they don't respond, I'm probably going to pick up and move closer to them. Like for me, proximity is a huge factor. Getting inside of that threshold of what they're comfortable with to elicit a territorial response.
So when you're moving closer, are you scanning the whole time, or you just get up and go as fast
I
as you
scan them intermittently.
So walk 50 yards, check. Walk
Yeah.
50 yards, check.
Yeah.
Okay.
I probably drive my clients crazy because like they can't see what I'm doing.
No.
They're just walking in the dark, and I'll stop and scan, and they'll bump into me, and I'm like, sorry.
So then same thing. Let's say, because this was one that particularly happened to a guy. He's like, I was rapid distressing, and all of a sudden these coyotes went crazy. Like, now what do you do?
If they howled when you're running rapid distress,
Yeah, like you're distressing, and then you've run through a sequence, and then they just carry on.
yeah, and I mean,
Serenade. What's that mean? Does that mean they didn't hear you? Does that mean
it can mean a lot of things. I mean, has that place been hunted before?
again?
You know what I mean?
So many different things. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are a lot of factors that go into it. But like, just if I'm committed to calling that spot, how far away did they howl from?
Like I said, 500-600 yards, not crazy far away, but close enough that you could definitely hunt them.
I would. I mean, of course, proximity is always if
You're
you can,
moving.
If you can improve proximity, like why not?
Sure.
Outside of the factor of having to drag it further to the truck,
Right.
If you drag them back,
Right.
I don't know, but I'm a big advocate of like, if they howl within a certain range, let them die tired. Like if I can just call them to me, cool. I'm gonna let them.
Let them die tired.
Yeah,
You're vicious, dude.
Well, I mean, I don't want to drag them. I've drug enough. I don't want to drag them any further than I have
Sure.
to. But yeah, so like from an efficiency standpoint, like, well, not an efficiency standpoint, but an effectiveness standpoint, if I can get closer and get more of a response, because like, if you give them more distance to cover, you might get that one that breaks ahead. But if you, okay, this is me getting greedy, but if you push their proximity where you're at in relation to them, if you push that and get closer, you're more likely to get the whole group to run over you or get within range. So it's like, that's something I think of. So in that scenario, depends on how long I've run the prey distress sound and all that stuff. So like, if they haven't come into the prey distress and they just howled, howling isn't necessarily mean you're going to kill them. It's just, you know where they're at.
Right. Which is a big thing.
It's an advantage. That's a huge advantage. So I would go and get closer to them and change my sounds.
Okay. Regardless, sounds like.
Yeah.
So, okay, here's one, and this is, I think we kind of know what this means, but, you're on stand, and all of a sudden a single coyote starts barking at you. Typically for me, that means the coyote's onto something. He's telling you he's pissed off, and sometimes if you think you're bulletproof, maybe he's just barking at what he thinks is another coyote. But if you think you goofed up, sometimes I mean I've messed up on coyotes, and they've barked at me, like me
So
personally.
I've seen this scenario, right? A bunch of times. Seen and heard. This video,
Summertime,
this thing is 15, 20 yards from me. And everybody that saw that was like, oh, you're busted. Well, little do they know I'm standing 20 yards from it and it's right next to the call.
right,
This is the barking. This is what people think of as booger barking,
right. That's it.
and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're busted. That means that the coyote is,
Pissed off.
yeah, it's angry. It knows something's not right. It wants to know what's wrong. Doesn't necessarily mean you're, but now if your wind's blowing directly at it,
Sure.
or you watched it run out of the field when you started walking in, yeah, I mean, cool. It knows that just go
Stuff.
just go somewhere else. Don't turn your call on. You're just reinforcing what it already thinks. So like, but if I get to a spot, I don't think there's any way that they have picked up on the fact that I'm there. Outside of the fact that that coyote's educated previously, like if it's a place I've called before and they've been shot at or called in and it's doing that, yeah. Do I think it's a higher likelihood that you're busted? Yes. If it's fresh ground and they're not educated in that area, then I'm going to go ahead and call. Like, and the same thing, it's just told me where it's at. So
Right.
if I can change my position now to be better, your setup is really important.
Oh, for
Really,
sure.
really important. And
sure.
it's a thing where guys set their tripod down and it's like they're anchored. Like they just, I'm like, oh man, if I can improve my position 10 yards, I'm going to,
Sure.
And
So you're all about being mobile.
100%.
That's awesome.
I want every event. We spend a lot of time and money and effort and energy and thought into killing these things. Why would I not, in the moment, take every advantage that I can get?
To give you that much more of an advantage.
Yeah, if I can move just a little bit and it gives me a little bit of an advantage, why wouldn't I?
Right.
Man, I just spent $6,000 on this thermal. What's walking 100 yards?
Right.
So
Okay, so the next one is you got a coyote coming in, and let's say there's some type of terrain, a line of trees, or maybe a waterway, an irrigation ditch, etc., where he's running, where you're going to lose sight of him, and it's not downwind. It's important,
okay.
but he's coming in. He's less than 200. He cuts into that, and he's been gone for 3 minutes. What do you think?
Okay, so I've got a place in mind that I can visualize. It's like that. A lot of
Right, or
times
maybe he runs into grass. Tall grass and thermal suck, right?
yeah. So understanding the wind in that scenario, is the wind going from him to me? Is it going from, is it crosswind?
He's not downwind, right?
Right. But I mean, that can mean,
Oh, he could get downwind, is what you're saying.
well, I mean, what I'm saying is like him not being downwind. It
Yet.
could be a crosswind or the wind can be going from him to me. If it's a crosswind, I'm going to try to go further down. If it's
prevent
been
him.
3 minutes, I'm going to probably move a little bit. I'm going to leave the call where it's at. And we actually just did this the other night. They shot it, but we didn't recover it. Yeah, we did exactly this. And it is a tree row. We called it from another field into a tree row, and we moved downwind of the call. Because I said, if this is going to happen, it's going to pop out. It's going to look. There's enough ambient light. We're going to shoot it on the tree line. And actually, one of the clients saw it in their scanner before I did, and it did exactly that. It went a little further down and just popped out. And I didn't realize until we started looking for it, it was actually still in the tall grass. It hadn't come all the way out into the open, so it was just trying to get downwind or where it could see out into the field. It was doing that thing where it leans and. So yeah, I'm just going to try to position myself better.
Sure.
3
So
minutes
that
is
coyote's is still there.
yeah, or get I mean probably. I mean I've had scenarios where they just Houdini and never
You're
show
like,
up.
yeah, how the heck did you get
Yeah,
away?
yeah. I mean I've seen scenarios where they go into the tree line and disappear, and then come to find out they worked a ditch line that's 300 yards downwind of you that you can't see when they get into. Yeah, we had that happen recently too.
And then you're like, those are the ones you're like, God, where'd he go?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the last one here is like, and this is one that you're going to be fond of, You've got coyotes coming in and they're bumped out from an outside source. Farmer, car, deer blowing, what do? So previously some guys have had marginal luck. They're saying like 10% of the times I can have that happen. And that's very scenario based where they're like, the coyote wants to come. Like a car drives by, they just stop and pace a little bit and keep coming.
Yeah,
But
sure.
more times than not, guys are saying like, when they get bumped by something that's not them, they're not going to try to educate that coyote. They're going to back out.
Are they bumped or are they hung up?
I guess there's a difference. 6, 1, half a dozen.
So if they are hung up, and we're talking night hunting, I'm assuming. So we had this scenario recently too, and this is one that I'll use a lot. I get some older hunters that aren't very mobile, but I get some younger guys that are like, if I got young guys with me, pick your stuff up, let's go.
Oh yeah.
And so we had a scenario where we pulled in the lane between fields, just off the road. This was the one I was talking about earlier where the cars are like a minute and a half apart.
Yeah.
And I said, these guys just hang out and they hang out and they hang out. Like 10 minutes goes by. I'm like, God, we should have killed these things already. And then the coyotes backed off a little bit, but I could still see one of them. It's like, guys, pick your stuff up. And we walked probably 600 yards over to this thing. And I said, we're going to get in range. We're going to shoot this thing. So people give coyotes too much credit. They do not see at night as well as we think they do. And I've tested this 100 times. If you have the wind and you are smart about how you move, they will pick up movement, especially if you're silhouetted with white lights in your background or something. As long as you're smart about how you're moving and you're not making big movements, you have to have a little woodsmanship still.
Right.
A little bit of stealth. You can't just go tromping through a cut cornfield and think the coyote's going to hang out. But you can get yourself within 200 yards of a coyote every time.
So you stalked the coyote.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
You didn't call it in. You literally stalked it.
Oh, I'm not. There's no pride.
Joe Wirth tenderfoot.
We will kill them however we can kill them. Yeah.
The Alabama creep on.
That's right. Yeah. So at night, and even when I hunted with lights, I just keep the light on and walk over there till they were in range and shoot them. Yeah. And
And you shot it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We did that.
Oh, yeah.
We did that multiple times last week.
No shit.
Multiple times last week. Yeah. And ironically, they were either missed or wounded and unrecovered.
No, okay.
Yeah.
The prairie poodle stalker.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I personally don't think they see much better than we do at night. Because I mean, I've tested it. Like I've walked under 75 yards of a coyote at night in a wide open field. Just get the wind, move real slow. You have to be quiet. You can't just walk normally.
Right.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
Huh.
I did a Facebook Live video years ago because guys were debating this. And I had a PVS 14 and my thermal scanner, and I showed it in the thermal scanner and said, there's the group of coyotes in the field. I'm going to see how close I can get. And I walked, I was under 75, probably closer to 50 yards of them in the middle of a wide open cut bean field.
What?
Yeah.
Did you shoot one?
I didn't have a gun. All I had was...
Well, like getting that close, you could probably just carry a slingshot.
Well, all it was I took the optics to kind of like just test it out and be like, I'm going to video.
Yeah.
so yeah.
Moccasin Joe over
right.
here. All right, so then
They were just deaf and blind is what it was.
This is, barring the thermal and other things, like I want you to think about maybe some things that guys overlook. Is there any must-have or overlooked equipment that you can think of? And it's not your gun and your tripod and stuff. Knickknacks or little tricks that you've picked up. Like one of them that I always say is like a coyote lanyard or drag. You don't realize how nice it is until you got to drag coyote 800 yards. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else like that you can think of?
I'm pretty. So daytime, a little wind checker is big. In the daytime, I am 1,000 times more aware of the wind than nighttime.
Really?
Yeah, because if you're a decent shot, you can kill a coyote at 300 yards.
Right.
Coyote, it's not unusual to have a coyote hang up at 300 yards and be downwindish of you and maybe smell that something's wrong, but not be conditioned to really, really fear humans yet. Shoot it.
Sure.
So but in the daytime, your wind, there's the way we day hunt, there's so much cover, they can get downwind of you.
Very easy.
Yeah, without you ever seeing them.
Right.
Especially in the summer months. So being aware of wind is huge for me. So wind checker in the daytime is one thing that I won't go without. Nighttime, a diaphragm.
Just simple mouth call.
Specifically a diaphragm so I am hands-free. Kind of
Right.
like we were talking about turkey hunting earlier, the ability to be hands-free. And that is to stop a coyote for a shot, stop a coyote after a shot, to add, if you're aggressive and coyotes are hung up, and I can do challenge howls over a fight sound with the
Right.
diaphragm.
And you
It's
can
like,
call back and forth to your caller.
yes, it's a versatile tool.
It allows you to create movement with your calls. And I think that's important too. Like
Depth.
the importance, like you said, even just to stop a coyote, a diaphragm, to do a whimper or just a yelp or something is pretty simple. When you get into howls and other things, I mean, you got to have a little bit more finesse. But even like you said, to be able to stop a coyote hands free without taking an open reed call out of your pocket or off your lanyard, that's important.
Yeah.
It's,
Because, I mean, we've all, maybe not all of us, but I mean, I've had times where I've tried to squeak at a coyote to stop it and it freaks out and runs away.
Yeah.
I can't make that high pitched whooping sound that people make.
woo.
Yeah, I can't make that sound. I sound like an old decrepit hound dog.
I've heard people say whistle at them, growl at them, woo at them,
I've seen them run away from that stuff.
all kinds of stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Just a little whimper where they're like, did I hear that? And they kind of hit the brakes.
It works every time until it doesn't.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so lastly, thermal is a big topic, and this series has really been more so about thermals. But with that, I mean, more hunters are killing more coyotes. Do you think we're going to get to a point where we're going to potentially affect the population?
So there was a study, and I won't say where I think it came out of because I'm not sure, 100% sure. But you can search for the study if anybody wants to. But there was a study that came out. It was a long-term study that concluded that putting an actual dent in a coyote population, to affect it negatively in a year, you had to kill 75% of the population.
Wow.
So, or it would be back up to that number within one pup cycle. So if you think about this, if you got a breeding pair, that's 2. They have 6 pups. That's 8.
Mm-hmm.
You have to kill 6, which is 75% of that population, to be back to 2. And now one more pup cycle, they're back at 8. Kill 6 out of 8 coyotes in a group.
Good luck.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We will usually kill 200-300 guiding and pleasure hunting combined.
In a year.
Yeah, less.
God, those are some good numbers.
If I could hunt more, if I could be on a gun more, but as many hunters as there are, we still see as many coyotes as we ever have.
And so because you've been doing this for 5 years and you haven't seen any decay, and you just heard it. He's killing 200 or more coyotes a year.
Yeah.
And you're still not seeing that effect because of the recruitment.
No.
The
And even now is like, there are so many other hunters. I've had multiple nights this year where we've heard other people calling. We've had spots where we've pulled up to find somebody there hunting the spot. Often people who aren't supposed to be there.
Sure.
But often, it is what it is. They're still hunting it. It's still a factor that we have to.
Right.
And pressure from other hunters is something to take into consideration. What are those people doing? Are they pulling in that same exact drive, that same exact pull in? Are they pulling there and stopping there and calling from there? And if you suspect, and I can tell, I mean, as soon as another person has hunted a property, I can tell by how the coyotes react or don't react. So like, okay, cool. I'm not going to come back here for a couple months and I'm going to do something completely different.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to walk in from the other side of the property. I may park there, but I'm going to walk 400 yards now and call from this place. And I'm going to use sounds that no one else is probably using. Not that I have them and they don't, but that people aren't thinking to use them.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now we got the would you rather segment here. And these are probably chump numbers for you, but this is talking about you personally. Would you rather shoot 6 coyotes in one night or 10 in a weekend? You behind the gun. 6 in one night or 10 in a weekend?
I take the 10 in a weekend.
You're a numbers guy.
Yeah.
I want more. Okay. All right. Would you rather kill a wolf or a mountain lion?
Ooh. How am I hunting the mountain lion?
Whichever way you want. You gonna try to call it in?
I'd rather do that than use hounds.
Sure.
Yeah. Nothing against hounds. It's just not my.
I
I used to hunt with hounds, like coon hunting and stuff, but I don't. To tree a cat and shoot it out of a tree, that is not. Calling a cat would be real cool.
that would.
But man,
yeah.
calling a wolf would be real cool too. So I don't know.
I've never been on either. I have a buddy of mine that's killed a mountain lion, and he said, which was so surprising to me, and he's in extremely good shape. He said it was one of the most physically demanding
I'm
hunts
sure.
he's ever been on, which is ironic, right? Because you're like, well, the dogs did all the work, and he's like, I thought that too.
It's still.
He's like, but we had to get to where the dogs got.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he's
they
like,
get into weird places.
And he's like, I'm just saying, he's like, I'm glad it was a close shot. He's like, I was gassed, man. He's like, you're going through like 3 foot of snow. And he's like, it's through rugged shit.
I don't even want to do that.
You know, he's like, but it's just a lot of guys have that mentality like, oh, the dogs treat it like you just walk over to it and shoot it.
Yeah.
And he's like,
So like
he totally went into there thinking that.
So like the physical, I would have to say that there's going to be more skill in killing, more individual skill in killing the wolf.
For sure, if you're calling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus the cat and using hounds. Because I
The
mean,
dogs are doing the work for you.
yeah, they are. But I mean, that houndsman also trained the hounds. So
Sure.
if they're good hounds, unless they're just natural, you know.
Right.
So I would say the wolf, especially if it's a black wolf.
All right. Would you, this is again you personally, it's a bolt action gun.
Uh-huh.
Would you rather hunt with a 22 long rifle or a 300 Win Mag?
300 Win Mag. I'd rather be overgun than undergun.
All right. Next question is you, whatever gun you want, you can either hunt seated with your butt on the ground with stabilization or standing without a tripod.
Oh, well, on the ground, stabilization, 100%. Shooting freehand is not efficient.
Sure.
Being stable. I used to, so when I used to hunt with and Justin will get a kick out of this. He used to tell me I was still driving a horse and buggy when everybody else was in modern times because I had a hard time making that transition from lights to, electro-optics of any kind. So I was using lights and shooting seated on the ground with a bipod on my rifle. Yeah.
Dang.
And I was, still killing stuff. but
Sure.
Not as many as I would have even if I just had a tripod.
If you were standing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember the breaking point was I was watching these coyotes come in, 4 of them. I remember exactly where I was. 4 coyotes come running in. They're in range, like 100 yards.
And you sat down.
I
you
sat
couldn't
down
see
and I
it?
can't see the damn thing. So I'd stand up and I could see them. And I'd just try to figure out if I could. And
Yeah, you're trying to put the bipods
Yeah.
on your boots, like when you're sitting down. Oh, yeah.
I fired 0 shots. I left and went and bought a tripod the next day.
No.
That was it.
Okay, so I know this answer. I don't even know why I'm asking it, but you can only either use distress or vocals. You're going to use vocals.
I would use vocals 100%, and not necessarily because vocals are more effective. So, like, how many times have you heard a dying rabbit in nature?
Not very often.
Yeah, I heard it once when we were rabbit hunting and someone stepped on one on accident.
Yeah.
But how many times have you heard coyotes howl on their own?
All the time.
Yeah. From an efficiency standpoint, it's a more natural sound.
Sure.
Rabbit has killed 1 billion coyotes,
Oh, yeah.
but man, it's boring.
Oh, yeah.
So,
So then a couple other things here. I mean, any honorable crazy coyotes, things that you've killed? Any black coyotes that you killed?
oh yeah, we've killed so for this area, it's not uncommon to kill like a brindle charcoal. Like we've killed dozens of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You never skinned one out?
There's one in the other
I'm
room.
going to slap you.
No, never skinned one out.
Well, how's it in the other room?
Taxidermist skinned it out. But that and red, like
The strawberry
people
red?
call them red, but
Yeah.
they're like red.
Really?
Yeah, we've killed a lot of red ones.
I'm going to skin one of them out if we shoot one.
There's one in there too. Didn't skin that one out either.
Of course there is. Most coyotes you've ever killed in one evening with clients
Oh, with clients?
or yourself. I mean, doesn't matter. What's your record?
So I've never had clients shoot perfectly.
Sure.
The hunts we do are 6 hours, and I've had clients kill, I think it's 8.
That's a lot of coyotes.
Yeah. I had one night where I hunted from, I think it was like 10 p.m. to sunrise, and I killed 15 myself.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was brutal.
But you're not missing,
I fired 15 shots.
Right. It's a big thing.
Yeah, I've had three solo nights in double digits, 15, 13, and 10.
Dang.
And the other 2 nights were not as efficient as that 15 coyote night. I'll just say that.
Any crazy things you want to share, before we come to a close here? Any stories that you think are just worth to let out?
Not that I would dare say in public.
No?
No.
What's the closest coyote you've ever killed?
Oh, point blank. I've like point blank. So in the daytime, what's fun about the day hunts for me is like to kill them, we have to get them absurdly close. So like we'll have dozens of coyotes every year that are 20 yards. We just can't kill them because the terrain is not. It's so thick, especially when the crops are tall.
Oh yeah.
So like I didn't keep track this summer. Summer before, I forget how many coyotes we killed, but the average shot was 12 yards.
12.
Average shot.
Dang.
So I mean, I think the longest shot was like 22 or 24 or
So
something.
you're using a shotgun for sure.
Yeah, daytime. Once the crops are up, we're shotgun exclusively. Like I'll hunt with a bow or a shotgun, but a rifle becomes obsolete at a point. Like once the beans are tall, it's useless.
Right. You might, there's no reason.
Yeah, I mean, 50 yards. I mean,
It's shotgun all day.
yeah, and even our timber is thick.
Correct.
You know,
Especially in the summer when it greens
The
up.
undergrowth is terrible.
The multiflora rose, and honeysuckle, and gooseberry, all that other stuff.
Oh yeah, and I've got videos. I've got videos of us being on like in a spot in a bean field that had flooded, so everything was dead. So we're in that dead circle, and call a coyote through the bean field where a client is like sticking the barrel of the shotgun in the edge of the beans, and the coyote, you can see the beans move like a wave right up to the barrel of the shotgun, and it's like that's what it's like in the daytime.
Just turn them to hamburger.
Oh my God, it's so much fun. But then to miss at that range is really easy.
Sure, because your pattern's the size of a golf ball.
No, at best.
Yeah, you might as well shoot them with a slug.
Right. It's
So,
tiny.
I don't. What do you like? Do you like taking clients out more in the summer or in night in the winter?
It depends on what kind of hunter they are. Like,
I'm asking you. What do you like to do? So, I mean, I see you light up right when you're talking about daytime.
if I had to pick one, I'd day hunt. Like the day stuff for me is like you can take an average coyote hunter out at night and he'll kill some coyotes. If you take an average coyote hunter out in the daytime in the same terrain, there's a reason not very many people day hunt in Illinois.
Sure.
It's not easy,
Right.
So
Not easy to be successful.
yeah, you're never going to put the numbers up in the daytime that you will at night, not even remotely close.
Right. Huh. All right. Well, once again, Joe, tell everybody where they can find you here.
Websites, Close Encounter Guide to PredatorHunts.com, and social media is Close Encounter Outfitters.
All right. And so for the listeners here, we're going to go out and see if we can't wrangle up a dog or two.
Oh, yeah.
Joe's going to teach me something. And I don't know, depending on how frosty we feel after the end of the night, if we go and stop at the Mexican place for another very heavy poured margarita, we might just have part 2 to this podcast. But if you're listening to this, make sure you follow up on both of our social medias because I know I'll be posting what we get done tonight. I'm looking forward to it, dude.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thanks for jumping on. And again, if you want to book a hunt, I'm telling you, you're going to have a ton of fun. You need to look up Joe. You need to find Close Encounters, and you won't be disappointed. I mean, it's everything. You just show up, right?
Yeah.
You have the guns, the calls. You drive them around.
Yep.
I mean,
provide everything.
I mean, if you've never thermal hunted, this is a great opportunity for you to do it and to have shots at coyotes. So, I mean, his proof is literally in his portfolio, which is his website and his Instagram and Facebook, all the above. Like all these clients just stack up dogs. So, thanks again, Joe.
Appreciate you having me.